Good afternoon and welcome to the latest issue of Playprint 21, the weekly video news bulletin for the Australia and New Zealand print industries. This issue is sponsored by Ball & Doggett, Australia's largest supplier of printable materials and press room consumables. And now Ball & Doggett is supplying wide format equipment. This week's news is a little bit different. We start with a retrospective. The Apple Macintosh has transformed print, taking it into the modern era and wiping out large sections of the industry in the process. Is celebrating its 40th anniversary this month. We're here outside Apple's flagship store in Sydney. Apple Mac was launched in 1984, the first ever computer with a GUI, graphical user interface, which had a stroke, transferred computer usage from boffins and geeks into the hands of designers and printers, as code on the screen was replaced with icons, buttons, menus, and WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. In other words, the page displayed on the screen exactly as it would be seen in print. Initially derided by the print industry, the Mac, as it was quickly known, had within a decade wiped out the entire typesetting industry, and by the end of the century almost all pre-press trade houses were gone as well, as its rapid implementation enabled the introduction of digital proofing on wide format printers, laser computer plate setting, CTP technology, which led to the rapid introduction of long 8 and 10 colour perfecting presses, taken up with such gusto. Taken together, the new printing processes from Mac to digital proof to CTP to perfecting print slashed costs and lead times to a small fraction of their previous levels. Jobs and skill levels to produce print were also slashed. Although the Mac was launched in 1984, it wasn't until a year later that its full potential became clear. That was to those that were taking notice, when the Apple Desktop Publishing System, DTP as it was known, for the Mac was released. The Apple DTP comprised the Mac with the oldest PageMaker layout software, Adobe PostScript software to enable the Mac to communicate directly with the printers, the Apple LaserWriter printer that used Canon technology with an Adobe RIP, and Linotype outline fonts. 2 years after that, Apple released the Mac 2. That came with a 13-inch screen, 50% larger than the original 9-inch version, and at that point, its implementation in print was set. By then, the Mac's clunky typesetting had been cleaned and its computer power turbocharged. At a time when pre-press houses were paying $1 million or more for page makeup systems from the big four of Crossfield, Hell, Cytex and Screen, all of a sudden you could have a Mac that would do the same job, built more or less, but for $10,000. Few technologies in the 550-year history of print can claim to actually be revolutionary, but along with Gutenberg's press, which kick-started the whole industry, of course, in 1452, and Otto Ottmar Mergenthal's Linotype hot metal typesetting machine, launched in 1884, the Apple Mac stands at the very top. In other news this week, an investment of $80 million in the Whakatane mill in New Zealand will boost board production by 66,000 tonnes a year to 230,000 tonnes, and will pave the way for a further increase of 100,000 tonnes a year capacity. Whakatane is the only board mill in the Australia region. Its products are distributed here by Ball & Doggett. They're under the Formico brand. The Whakatane mill was actually saved from closure just 3 years ago by Irish packaging tycoon Dermot Smurfit. He led an investor consortium that acquired the mill, keeping it operating and saving 210 jobs. It's the biggest employer in the region. At the time they bought the mill, the new owners said they will pivot away from liquid packaging board and concentrate instead on high quality folding box board, hence the big investment today. LIA Victoria has a new committee and office bearers for the next 12 months. Robin Frampton, well-known industry identity, she manages the marketing communications for industry associations, visual communications and the Australian Sign and Graphics Association. Robin was elected president with former LIA Graduate of the Year finalist Jacinta Jazz Allen, graphic pre-press coordinator at Bream Printing, stepping up as vice president. Some 95% of the Visual Impact show's floor space, the first show in Brisbane for 6 years, is already booked, with organisers expecting the remaining space to go soon, creating a sold-out expo. One of the exhibitors there is Curry Group, and that has just partnered with Italian robotic cutting and automation specialist Elitron to supply the Elitron range of cutting systems for digital print, packaging and textiles to print service providers across Australia and New Zealand. Elitron, in fact, claims to be the #1 producer globally of cutting systems, and the Elitron name will be already familiar to some in the Australia-New Zealand region. In the print and packaging sector, its portfolio includes the Combo ST and STC series. That's it for this week's issue of Playprint 21. Go to print21.com.au for all these stories in depth and more. Thanks to our sponsor Ball and Doggett. This is Wayne Robinson on the 40th anniversary of the launch of the Apple Mac outside the Apple Mac store, signing off for another week.